Fundraising can be scary for some people. We're going to help you break this down and set goals, do all of the math. You need to think about how much money you need to raise in order to win. Call time has been proven to be the single most effective way to raise money. Tell your donors how you're using their money to reach the voters so that you can win this race about this issue that you really care about.
So without further ado, Lacey, take it away.
Thanks, Mandy. Hey, everyone. My name is Lacey Connolly. I have been working in Democratic politics for, I think, 18 years now, which just seems too much. But throughout that time, I have been involved in a little bit of everything. I've been a field organizer. I've been a finance director. I've been a compliance manager. I've campaign managed. Most recently, I was the caucus director for the West Virginia House Democrats. And now I actually work for my local municipal government on the other side of the campaign sphere. So I have done a lot of things that have needed to spend the money and raise the money. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it today. And I just want to get us all ready to train. So take a deep breath. Make sure you're comfortable, stretch, and we'll start out by setting some norms. So norms are just values that are shared by a learning community. And so what I would really like us to do today is, number one, be respectful. I'm going to do my best to respect you all by answering your questions and keeping us on time. I'd like to invite you all to be respectful in the chat as we ask people to share information and ask questions. The second is to be present. So my phone is upside down, it's off to the side, it's on mute. I am here 100% with you all for the next hour or so. And then the third is to ask questions and participate. So I have a lot of experience, but there are only certain things that I'm able to share in such a short time unless you're asking me questions. So please be sure if you have any questions, especially if it's around like a term that I use or something that you're not quite sure, to pop it in the chat. I'll answer it, or Mandy will raise it up when we get to a question. All right, sound good? Let's go. Our objectives for today: we are going to be able to recognize how to Rolodex, organize, and prioritize your donor list, practice a fundraising hard ask, and understand call time best practices. And all of these objectives fall under our campaign's fundraising plan, which is a puzzle piece in the greater campaign plan that outlines the fundraising goals, the strategies, the tactics that you need in order to raise the money to talk to enough voters before Election Day in order to win your campaign. So we're going to do one more team building exercise and then jump into it. In the chat, drop in a local issue that really matters to you right now. So especially for anyone who's running for office, what is the one issue that matters most to you right now that has made you decide to do this thing that's going to take up so much of your time? We've got voting rights, public safety, funding public schools. I hear you on that. Our legislative session just ended and it was not pretty. Mental health, justice, affordable housing, living wage, excellent. So the reason I like to start off a training by asking you to think about these things, especially doing a fundraising training, is that fundraising can be really scary for some people, right? And so when you frame it around the reason that you're asking people for money is so that you can get elected, so that you can do the work on this issue that matters to you, it makes it a little less about you and a little more about the issue that you care about. So it's really important when you're fundraising to keep this in mind. So why we do call time? Call time's always everybody's favorite. In call time, the candidate is going to directly call potential donors to build relationships and ask them for contributions. And we have a short video here that I am going to just move us into real quickly. I'm going to play this for you so that you all can get an idea of what call time might look and sound like.
Hi, Dominic Grant. He was the CFO at Delicious Corp until a couple months ago. He's been doing some startup investing and support stuff now. Did you ever work with him at Delicious?
No, we didn't work. We were in different departments actually, but we've been around each other enough to know we know each other.
Okay, are you comfortable making an ask?
Hi, Dominic. It's Nicole Strong. How's life after Delicious Corp treating you? Wow, I'm glad to hear that. Mentoring young entrepreneurs sounds so fantastic, and I'm doing really well. I'm running for Kentucky House, and our campaign is going exceptionally well. We're gearing up, and if things keep heading in the direction we're going, I'm confident I'm going to be able to unseat Chad Covington. Really? I had no idea he was causing so many problems for Delicious Corp over the years. It definitely explains why a lot of the executives have been so supportive of our campaign. I really appreciate that. I could definitely use your help with the campaign. We're gearing up for a big digital ad push and talking to voters on the door. Could you contribute $500 this week to help us launch that effort? Thanks so much. That is fantastic. I'll email you the link to donate right after we get off the phone. And I think you're right. An event is such a great idea. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to bring in all the executives that had issues with Chad Covington. And since you're willing to host, that could be huge for us. My colleague will follow up with you and we can firm up the details. Thanks again, and I'm so glad to have you on board. Wow, that was super insightful. Apparently, Covington has stood in the way of the expansion efforts of Delicious Corp for so many years. It's not public, but the C-suites have they've got a problem with him for sure. Dominic also offered to host an event for us, and it's going to focus on the higher ups at the corporation. Could you touch base with him to firm up the details?
Of course, but wow, that could be a goldmine for us. What a great call. Why don't we end on that high note? Alicia emailed me and your next meeting got pushed back 30 minutes. So you still have time to run home if you need to.
Thank you. I really appreciate your help today.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to switch back to our slideshow and get us all set up here. And we're going to dive deep into all of those moments as we get farther into this training. But I wanted just to start out so that you all could see what an effective call time can look like. Now, the reason we do call time, even though it's this sometimes overwhelming, scary thing, especially for new candidates, is because call time is going to be the engine of your campaign. It is where the most money is going to come from because it's where you can build the deepest relationships. So call time has been proven to be the single most effective way to raise money. Really, all it takes is your candidate's time, right? And the resources that you're always looking to maximize in campaigns are time, money, and volunteers. So all of this just takes time, but it could be responsible for up to 70% of your revenue stream for your campaign. So when setting up call time, when going into call time, there is a flow. There is work that you need to do beforehand. There is the actual call time, which is making the calls and raising the money. And then there's work that you do afterwards. And we saw a little bit of a lot of that in the call time video that we just watched, but we're going to break each of these down a little bit. I do want you to think about this a little bit in terms of, we're going to help you break this really down and set goals and do all of the math. But the things to consider with call time, you need to think about how much money you need to raise in order to win, right? So you know your win number, you know how many voters you need to reach out to. So you need to figure out how much money it's going to cost to reach those voters in each of the different ways in your campaign plan. And this is how the fundraising plan really connects to your campaign plan as a whole. So one of the ways that you can start figuring out how much money you need to raise is to do intentional research to find out how much it cost for the last Democrat who ran in the race to win. Now, with redistricting, this might look a lot different. I know here in West Virginia, we went from having multi-member House districts to having all single-member House districts. So for a lot of our candidates, they're running in a district that is totally different from what they've ever done before. And if you are in that situation, there are other ways to start building this budget that will help you build your fundraising plan. So we will talk about that, but you do need to at least start doing some research to find out what's been raised in the past. The other thing to realize is that call time is not supposed to be easy. I used to tell people that fundraising was easy for campaigns, and then I had to actually do it in order to raise my salary to be a caucus director here in West Virginia. And I realized that maybe I shouldn't have been telling people that. It's not easy, but it is mathematical. So there are formulas that you can use. There are templates that we are going to get you help set up with. And the biggest thing is just be prepared to hear no and to realize that that is not the worst thing ever in your universe that could happen to you. So if you have these strategies in mind of how to get over that hump, maybe there's a song that you love, or maybe you keep chocolate at your desk, and anytime you get a no, you just let yourself eat a piece of chocolate. Maybe it's petting your dog. It could be any of these things, but just have something in mind that if you do get discouraged, or if you do just feel like, you have something to get yourself out of that. Before we jump into the pre-work, I want to do a quick temperature check and see, does anybody have any questions or comments or anything you want to share in the chat? Just knowing that a lot has been. Oh, I like that, Mike. Mike says, have a small mirror in front of you and smile before you call. Yeah, absolutely. You can 100% tell when somebody is actually happy to be making a call and when they're not. Anybody else? Let's see. Chris, I promise we're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to talk about working through your contact list. Carsey likes Skittles. I love it. Kristen, so if you're running against a multi-term incumbent, you want to look at the last person who was a challenger and how much they spent, because that's a very good point, that incumbents can raise less and spend less than challengers.
You're learning how to raise more money, but do you know how much you need to win? You need to set fundraising goals. And to do that, we've linked our free fundraising goal sheet in the description below. With it, you'll set campaign budget levels, research fundraising in past races similar to yours, map out your fundraising network, also called a campaign Rolodex, and more. So download our expert-created fundraising goal sheet now to make sure that you raise what you need to improve your community. Now back to the training.
So in your pre-work, this is really all about understanding who the potential donors are in your district and what types of relationships you need to be building, because fundraising is really all about relationships. It's not about who you know the day you enter the campaign. It's about the relationships that you build with different people, different organizations, and all of that stuff throughout the campaign. So the first thing that you need to know is that 1 hour of call time is probably going to take you between 2 and 5 hours of donor research and additional preparation. It depends a little bit about where you are in the campaign. We're going to talk about expanding your network here in just like 2 slides. It might take less time for you to prepare for your call time when you're in that inner circle of people. And then as it spreads out, you need to do more and more research. So think about this in that your candidate is going to spend a lot of their time doing call time. And for every hour of that, you as a staff member will need to have hours of donor research and preparation before that. The other important thing to realize as we're building out our potential donor base is that we are not our donors, right? And a lot of times I see candidates getting caught up in this idea of, I can't ask this person for money. I can't ask that person for money. I know their personal situation. I know they're going through a hard time. I know they just, paid their kids' first semester's tuition in college. But the reasons why we do things are different than the reasons our donors do things. And so if you are making the decision for your donor, whether or not they can give money to invest in your campaign, you are actually taking that choice away from them. And so I really want to encourage you all to ask everyone that you know and give them that chance to say yes or no. And if they do say no, and it's someone that you know, or they support you, there are other things that they can do. So you're still asking them to invest their resources into your campaign. It may be money, or it may be time, or it may be that they're a really excellent baker and they make cookies for your next fundraiser. So when you're thinking about the relationships that you have and who you think you can turn into a donor and who you can't, please make sure that you're not making that decision for your donors. All right, so now we're going to get into donor motivation, which is going to go up to Chris's question. So when we start thinking about Rolodexing our people, we're in the middle, right? We as the candidate. So the first people we need to call and ask to invest in our campaign is our personal network. So these are our family, our friends, the people that support every dream we've ever had, whether it's to open a coffee shop or it's to run for office. These are the people that don't necessarily care what your party is, what issues you're running on. They just know you, they love you, they're going to give you some sort of donation. So that's your personal network. The next sphere of people are going to be your ideological donors. So these are the ones that do care what party you're in. They do care what issues you are going to vote for. They do care if you support the things that they support and if you don't support the things that they don't support, right? So these could be members of Democratic clubs that you start to build relationships with. These could be members of different constituency groups that you start to build relationships with. It could be union members if you've started to go to their meetings. So these are all the people that have the same ideals and values as you. The next ring out are people who have an axe to grind. And they don't necessarily care too much about what your issues are or why you're running, but they do care about what the other person is running against or for, and they don't like it. So in West Virginia, we had 2 years of teachers' strikes in 2018 and 2019. And the senator who was sort of the face of why these teachers were striking became public enemy number one. And so people who had teachers and teachers' families who had never donated to a candidate before, who had never gone out to really work for or against a candidate, 100% turned out to get him out of office. And it worked. They voted him out. They voted a new person in. So that axe to grind can be really powerful if there are certain issues that are motivating in your communities. And then the last one is this power sphere. And this power sphere is, it's really odd, y'all, because these are people who just want to feel like they have some connection to the candidate. so that they feel like they can call the candidate to ask for a favor or see if they can get certain legislation passed that they've been pushing for. Sometimes the people in these power spheres will even donate to both candidates because they don't care what issues you care about. They just care about being on the winning side. So there are a lot of different spheres of donor motivation, and knowing which one your people fall into is really important when we start putting them into priority lists and we start building our asks, which we will get to in a minute. So does anybody have any questions about donor motivation? I'm going to scroll up. Let's see. Okay, Donna and Pam, we will talk about those things in the next little section. Pam, yes, absolutely. Call people you know outside of your district. These are, especially in the personal and ideological spheres, they don't necessarily have to have a vested interest in you getting in there. Your personal sphere might just want to see you happy, and so they'll donate to do this weird thing that you want to do, which is run for office, right? And the ideological group wants to get you in because they know that the way you vote on certain issues aligns with their values. So whether or not you're actually representing them doesn't actually matter. It's the end game of what legislation you can pass. Let's see. Some donors believe in the golden rule. Then that's got the gold makes the rules. That's funny. All right. I am going to go into the Rolodexing process, which I think we need a new term for this sometime soon because I'm not sure if many people actually use Rolodexes anymore or know what they are. But Rolodexing is just building your list of potential donors from your personal contacts, reducing your duplicates, and organizing the list. So it's very much the taking all of the information that is in your cell phone and putting it into a spreadsheet. We do have a sample spreadsheet that we're going to get to in a minute, and I'll go through each of the steps. But the first thing is going to be looking through your phone contacts, your address book, your social media, any alumni groups that you are a member of, any membership groups, your friends' contacts, your family's contacts. If you have staff members, your staff members' contacts. Pretty much you are just building this giant database of any person that you could call to ask to invest in your campaign. And I really do like framing campaign donations as investments because it circles back to that thing where we started by talking about the issues that we really care about. And that's what these donations are, right? When you ask someone to donate to your campaign, you're not asking them for $10 so that you can buy a new pair of shoes, right? You're asking them for $10 so that they can have affordable health care, or you're asking them for $10 because you want to make sure there's affordable housing in your area. So these are investments in this because the only way your people are going to get those things are if you're elected, if you win your race. And the only way you're going to win your race is if you raise enough money to talk to as many voters as you need to. So let's take a look at this spreadsheet. We are going to break down a couple of these columns in a little more detail, but the important things to start off with: name, address, phone number, email, occupation, employer, any notes that you have, especially if this is a contact that's coming to you from a friend or a family member. For example, if my sister gave me her best friend and said, call her, tell her you're Ramey's sister and she'll probably donate, then I would want to make sure to put that in my notes to mention that my sister gave me her contact information. And I see Chris had a question of what happens if we don't have the person's current phone number. That's what Google is for. And you may end up not finding it still, but you are going to have to do a little more digging into people that are not close personal contacts. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we talk about doing some more donor research. But if you don't have it and the voter file that you have doesn't have it, maybe just highlight that in your spreadsheet for now and go on to the next person. So, let's see. Okay. So this is just, again, we want our spreadsheet to be as streamlined and organized as possible. So first we're putting in all the information, then we're going to sort it to make sure that we don't have the same person's information in there more than once, because we don't want to call someone, they say they'll give $500, and then we call them again because they're later on the list and they say, wait, you're not even organized enough to know that I'm on your list twice, so maybe I won't send you $500. So the deduping is important. And then the organizing. So the organizing comes into our priorities, and that's the two parts of the spreadsheet that I want to go into. The first, you may have seen a column where we were rating, we're not rating a person, we're rating their likelihood to donate from A to F. A is somebody who is absolutely 100% going to write you that check. So that might be your parents, it might be your siblings, it might be the best friend that you've had since 3rd grade who would do anything for you. Those are going to be your A donors. Your B donors are the ones who probably are going to donate, but you're not really 100% positive. Your C's are going to be the people that could really go either way. You don't have any idea. It's a friend of a friend of a friend. They think that they care about the same issue that you care about. You're going to do your best. You're going to make the hard ask, but really it's up to them. And then the D rankings are the ones who are probably pretty unlikely to give you a check, but you still want to call them to give them that opportunity, right? I would really avoid giving anyone an F because, again, the F just sort of signifies that they're definitely not going to give you money. And like I said, you don't want to take that choice away from anybody. So A through D goes in that column. Then the other column was categorizing your donors in terms of their likely donor amount. So in this slide, we've done a scale of 0 to 5, and this is based on a campaign scale where I think 1,000 is the max donation that somebody could give. So your scale could look similar to this, or it could look very different. It depends on your contribution limits. So please make sure that you know those. And again, you are going to sort them 0. You really have no idea how much money they're going to be able to give. Your 1s are going to be the people that can give on the higher end, and your 5s are going to be your smaller dollar donors. So once you've got each of your donors in the spreadsheet ranked A through D and 0 through 5, then the way you sort, you want to make sure that you're spending more time building the relationships, probably with those B donors where you think that they're going to give, but you're not really sure, in the 1 to 3 range. So maybe those are the first people you call. Well, the first people you call should be your A's that you know are absolutely going to give you money, because that way you can start to build your credibility and you kind of build your comfort level, making the ask, making the call time, all of that stuff, because you're calling friendly people, right? So after you've done that and you've built the foundation of your fundraising plan, which is going to come from those people who know you, love you, and are going to give you money just to support this dream that you have, then you're going to start prioritizing into your B's and then your C's. And then, yes, you're going to spend time and energy calling into those D's as you're continuing to build your base of support, because some of those people might be convinced by thinking that you are going to win. So right now, actually, let's just give this a go. If everyone has your phone, I know I said it's off to the side, it's on silent, just pick it up for like 30 seconds and find somebody in your contact list and assess what you think they would be rated on your donor spreadsheet. And just go ahead and share it in the chat with us. So like I brought up my sister earlier, so I'll bring her into this again. I would put her as an A because she is absolutely 100% going to donate to me. And I would probably put her in a tier 2 or 3. So let's see if anybody else has thoughts on it. And I'm also going to scroll up and see if there are any questions that I missed.
Yeah, Lacey, while people are assessing, I did write down 2 questions.
Great.
I'm going to pop them into the chat. And for the people who asked them, I did write your names down so you can see.
Awesome. Let's see. So Christine, I think I would need a little more information. Has it already passed the filing deadline, or is your race far in the future? Like why do you not know your opponent, or if you have an opponent? And then M, let's see. So I would really discourage people from having volunteer calls coming in through an auto dialer app. This is specifically for fundraising. So call time needs to be done through the candidate because it is all about the relationship that they are building with the voters or the people who care about the issue or the donors. So call time is something that I don't like to give out to volunteers because I think it's something that needs to be highly personalized between the candidate and that person. But if you have any follow-up questions to that, please drop them in the chat. Christine says you haven't passed the filing deadline yet. Okay. So you can't really do a whole lot of opponent research yet because you haven't passed the filing deadline. You don't know who you're running against. So I would focus on building the foundation of your own campaign. So making sure that you know how much money you need to raise, making sure you know your win number, starting to call those A1s, A2s, like the people that are definitely going to give you money, and not worry about the other person until you have someone filed. All right. So I'm going to keep going as I talk about how donor research is ongoing. So donor research is never anything, like it doesn't really have an end date, because as you continue to meet people for your campaign, your candidate meets people, you're introduced to new people, all of the new people that you're meeting can be either voters or donors or both, or volunteers. Like there's a lot of different ways you can utilize new people that you're meeting on the campaign trail. So as you're meeting new people, try and get business cards, try and get contact information, try and have someone, if you can, come with you to these events so that they're collecting this information. And make sure you make a little note like, okay, met this person at this event, met this person at this event. We talked about XYZ. Like it's something you can write really quickly on the back of a business card so that when you then call that person and say, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation about wildlife at the Conservation Fund dinner, and I want to talk to you about how I'm going to support that if you elect me as representative. Also, like I said, people who then tell you no, they don't have a capacity to donate. Maybe they've already made their yearly contribution to the Conservation Fund and now they can't support a candidate, but maybe they can volunteer for you. And so that's the follow-up ask. And then of course, you've got your low dollar donors. So keeping an eye on them, seeing if there are people that maybe could be moved up a ladder of engagement to volunteer or given a larger amount, or make a one-time contribution on top of their on top of their small dollar donations. Okay, so going into donor research and where you start, I think somebody asked a question about this beforehand. A really good way to start looking into people is to find out what their past contribution history is. So you've got these names on the list, you want to know what they might be able to give. Looking up to see if they've ever given to a candidate running in a similar race to yours is a really good place to start. And there are online resources for this type of information. We've got opensecrets.com, which is a really good one. A lot of states' secretaries of state have some sort of researchable contribution database. So looking into that. One thing that I would not do is to go to a past candidate, download all of their financial reports, and just start calling people off of them. Number one, that's illegal to do, so please don't do it. Number two, it's also not effective. Like I said, fundraising is all about relationships, right? And so you might be calling someone because they donated to a similar candidate in the past, just to find out that it's their brother-in-law or their best friend from third grade who now lives 3 states over and doesn't care about who's running in that race. They just cared about the person that they donated to because they're in their tier. So, but yes, researching them, their contribution history to find out how much they can contribute, and then doing additional research. So Googling, looking up on Facebook, making notes of shared interests, of shared connections. If this is someone that you think could be a really high dollar donor, I would even suggest reaching out to the connection first and saying, hey, can you set up a meeting with this person? Or, hey, can we do a phone call with this person first so that my running is validated by your support? So doing the online research can really give you a whole lot of information that you wouldn't have just by finding their number on your phone. So, questions. I know I'm going through this really fast and we have a lot of information still to cover. So,
Lacey, I have a question from Ruth Walter, who asks, during call time, do you leave messages and can you call people at work?
That's a really good question. I would probably not leave messages unless you've called a person 2 or 3 times and they've never answered. So I would just put a message to call them back at a different time. Make sure that you noted like the day and time that you called them to make sure you're not always calling them on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock and they're not answering. And also calling at work is usually fine. I would be aware of the type of work that they do. If someone is an ER doctor, maybe you don't call them at work, but if someone is a lawyer or an accountant or something where they are probably sitting at a desk most of the time, I would feel comfortable calling that person at work. All right, we are going to jump into what we are doing during call time, which is making calls and raising money. And that's it. Ta-da. No, just kidding. Everything that you do with call time is based on your budget. And I really want to encourage everybody to think about putting together a 3-tier budget. I really like how NDTC calls this the uh-oh budget, the realistic budget, and the ideal budget. I used to call it the Edsel version, the Camry, and the Cadillac, because it's the same thing, right? Like the uh-oh budget, the Edsel, it'll get you there. Like it's still a strong campaign operation, but it doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles. The realistic budget is a plan that gets you to your win number and maximizes your efficiency. And then your ideal budget is the one that has all of the bells and whistles that you want, the nice to have expenditures, maybe a big campaign staff or whatever it is. Everything that you do on a campaign costs money. So you want to make sure that your budget takes all of these things into consideration And if you get to a point in your fundraising where you have to make those decisions as to what you can cut, having these 3 budgets will make that a lot easier. This is what a fundraising budget might look like on a mayoral, a state rep, or a federal campaign. Remember, every state has different campaign finance rules. Every state has different sizes for their districts. So make sure that you are comparing the numbers that you need to raise with what has been raised in your district in the past. And then setting goals for call time, they're based on your overall fundraising goal. You're going to have an idea of how many hours the candidate will need to put in, and you're going to need to know how many pledges you think you can get in an hour and how much the donors are going to give. So again, having that ranking system that we talked about at the top is going to be really helpful. All right, so the other thing that is really helpful is having a hard ask. So in order to define what a hard ask is, I want to show you what a soft ask is, which is what is on this slide. If a candidate called you and said, you know, I know it's really hard time right now, the economy could be better, gas is just, oh my gosh, I can't even believe how much gas is. But could you maybe donate some money to my campaign? It'd be really helpful. Do you think that you would actually give to that candidate? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time waiting for people to put it in the chat because I know that the answer is no. But go ahead and tell me a little bit about what you would do in order to improve that ask. What advice would you give to this person? And I want to tell you that this happens all the time. I had a candidate who was former military at one point. Somebody that had been in his unit was now like a CEO at Amazon and was really invested in getting former military people into office. Called him, had a great conversation with him, talked for like 40 minutes, which is not a best practice, by the way, but I let it slide with this one. And then he did not ask for money at the end of it. And when I got off the phone, I was like, why did you do that? And he just looked at me because he knows why I was calling. Does anybody want to guess if that person donated or not? Because again, the answer is no, he did not. And I had to leave the campaign within like 2 weeks because they couldn't pay me. So real life consequences for soft asks, y'all. Let's see. Isabella says to give them a deadline, ask for an amount, make it a negotiation. Yeah, exactly. So I want to say especially the ask for an amount. And one way that I really like the way the example did this at the very beginning is she had a reason she was asking for it, right? She said, we are getting ready to do this really big digital push. Can you contribute $500 to make that happen? And so that can make things feel a little easier too, because like I said at the beginning, you're not asking because you need a new pair of shoes, right? You're asking because you need to talk to voters because you care about this issue. Let's see. Mike, yes, can I count on you for a $100 contribution? I'll be using it for $10 gas cards for volunteers. Perfect. Absolutely. All right. Y'all know what you're doing. This is just mirroring what happened in the video. I'm going through it really quickly because we have about 15 minutes. You greet the donor, you establish your credibility and viability. So who you are, why you're running, engage them, listen to them. So if you ask them a question, listen to their response, write it down, make notes in case you do future follow-up calls, make the ask. It's going to be specific, urgent, and have a deadline. And then stop talking and wait. One of the tricks that I really love for this is to have a glass of water next to you and take a drink after you ask the person to make the contribution. Because in negotiations, the first person who talks loses. So don't let it be you. Negotiate. So if they say, well, I'd really like to donate, but I can't donate that much today, negotiate with them and say, you know, would you be comfortable with this amount? How about this? And eventually you can even say, you know, would you volunteer for the campaign? Then you close. If you are asking them to donate by credit card, make sure that you get that information to put into ActBlue or whatever database you're using. And then the thank you and the follow-up. All right, any quick questions before we get into the after? I'm actually just going to go ahead and go into it, and then we'll answer any questions when I get to the next pause. So this is the post work: scheduling follow-ups, updating your database, sending thank you notes. This part seems pretty easy, but it is so important not to let this slide by without actually doing it. NDTC does have a whole suite of NGP courses to help you if you have access to that system for fundraising reports. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You can totally keep track of everything that you need to keep track of in a spreadsheet. Just make sure you know what is required for the level of office that you are running for, so that you will have all of your information to put into your campaign finance reports. Follow up and thank yous. This is so important. And I really want to encourage you all that until you reach a point in your campaign where you physically do not have the time to do it anymore, please write handwritten thank you notes. They are, especially in some of these races where donors or voters start to feel like you're just coming to them and always asking them for things, and there's only so much they can give. That thank you note might sit on somebody's fridge for 2 or 3 election cycles for them to point out and be like, hey, this person actually took time to write me a real thank you note and say that my contribution of $100 helped them win this race. So until it is physically not possible for you to do it, please do handwritten thank you cards. And then keep your donors updated on your campaign's progress. So add them to your email list, send pictures of your volunteers holding their gas cards or eating their pizza or passing out your literature, whatever that thing is that you ask people to donate to. Take pictures of that in action and tell your donors how you're using their money to reach the voters so that you can win this race about this issue that you really care about, right? So it all links together. Again, in terms of thanking your donors, if you are doing online donations, make sure that you fill in the template information. If there is a space for what the donor receives after they make a contribution, make sure that it says thank you. Make sure that it has your website or your Facebook page or things for updates on the campaign. Make sure to personalize it. The thank you cards we talked about, and maintaining the relationship. I mean, again, fundraising, all about relationships. And that relationship is not just good for that one contribution, right? And it's not just good for that one contribution and any other follow-up contributions. It's good for the community. It's good for listening to what your constituents want. Maintaining the relationship is just a good best practice all around. So our key takeaways, and then I'm going to go into the chat to see if there are any questions that I missed. Call time involves pre-work, the actual call time, and post-work. And all 3 of those are important. Rolodexing and completing donor research helps you prioritize and maximize your call time sessions. And following up with and thanking your donors is incredibly important. So I hope that you all will take those away as well. We do have some additional resources for your campaigns at traindemocrats.org. This is NDTC's site. Here are some suggested courses that might help you with fundraising. And as you write those down, I am going to go through and check the chat real quick.
I have some questions I wrote down. I accidentally messaged Mike them, so I'm dropping them. But we have 3, and I think that's a really good amount for the end of this.
All right. So let's see. Pam, do you send to the website for them to donate to Act Blue? So yes, you can. There are 2 schools of thought about this, and it really depends on what your support level is, I think, because if you have someone sitting with you at call time and you can say, thank you so much for your contribution, for your pledge of $500. Would you be willing to make that by credit card right now? I'm going to hand you over to my call time manager, and she's going to get your data and enter it. Then your call time manager can actually have Act Blue open on their computer and take the information down right then and send it in. And the reason that that is so nice is that you don't have to then spend time tracking that donor down and asking them to actually follow through on their pledge, right? They've already done it. The money is coming to you. You don't have to send a follow-up email and then another email saying, hey, I noticed you haven't made that contribution yet. Could you do it now? It takes a lot of that out. So if you're able to do that, I would really encourage you to. Tyler, when are the best times of the week to make calls? Anytime you can get your candidate to sit down and make call time. Call time is going to be such a big part of the campaign that it's really limiting to say you should only be doing it during certain hours. This is one of the reasons why it's important to either make a note yourself or have someone who's making notes of what time you're calling people. Because again, if you see a pattern that you're calling the same donor every day around 2:00 and they're not answering, well, maybe 2:00 is a bad time for them. Maybe they have a new baby and that's when they're napping and they turn off all of the telephones in the house. So for that donor, you want to try a different time. And so that's why I would really encourage you not to limit yourself to certain times of the week, because it's going to be different for every donor when they're available, when they're willing to talk. And then Patty says, is there any proof that handwriting is better than typed on campaign letterhead? The proof that I have is from personal experience and from knowing that the people that my candidate has spent time doing handwritten letters to have put it on their fridge, have talked to that person, have posted it on Facebook, and have given that good rapport. So I would try and find times when your candidate is doing other things to also be writing thank you cards.
Lacey, we had a message from Consuela Hunter who said, what things do you recommend to purchase volunteers who pass out cards and put up signs? I think that connects to our volunteer discussion earlier.
Not a whole lot, to be honest, just because, again, resources are limited, right? So it could be using the other resource that you have, which is time with your candidate. So make sure that your candidate shows up at the beginning or end of a volunteer shift to actually thank the volunteers person to person. It could be, you could make something for like a Facebook profile pic that says like, I'm a volunteer for this person. And that could be a way that they could keep, it could be like an exclusive club that they're joining, right? But all it is really a Facebook filter. When it comes to spending campaign resources, it's really important that you think about how many voters you're influencing with that purchase. And buying things for volunteers just isn't that. Now, doing something like a pizza party or having water for people that are walking or snacks, things like that, that's totally different. You should 100% do those things. And make volunteers feel appreciated and loved. Just don't think that you have to spend a lot of money doing it.
Yen had a great question saying, they didn't win their election. I plan to run again. What can I say to my funders to get them to give again?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for running again. That's a hard thing to decide to do, but it's so important because that first race could really have set a good foundation for you for this next time. And I think that's probably the way I would approach it with my donors. You know, you learned a lot during that first campaign. Here are some of the things that you learned. Here is what you're looking forward to doing next time. And then remind them of why you're running. Like, you gave to me because we both really care about how public education is funded. I'm still here 100% for that. So please contribute again. This time I'm going to win. So,
and I think
that helps, and good luck.
Sorry, Lacey. I think this is probably the last question we can get to, but Joshua asked a really good question saying, should a launch be event focused or just digitally released so you can start call time sooner? Joshua, if you want to expand on that, feel free to do so in the chat.
Yeah, so it depends on a lot of things, right? Especially right now in this time of are we, aren't we in COVID times. So I think it depends on your district. If it's something where people are feeling safe to get together, you can do a big event outdoors. I think that there's a lot of value in that, especially if you are asking people to donate at the launch event, if you have sign-up sheets so that people are giving their contact information, their updated email addresses, all of those things. Again, you're maximizing those resources. So it's a decision of, is an hour of my candidate's time spent at this event worth however much I think that they could make during call time? And it's up to you to make that decision. And I think in some places, in some districts, in some circumstances, it probably is.
So. Awesome. So we are at the hour. Can't believe you answered all those questions, Lacey. Have a wonderful day. Hopefully it's warm where you are. And we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, my email address is right up there. So feel free to shoot me an email. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Good luck.
Now that you know how to make the most out of call time, you need to check out Georgia Representative Nikema Williams' 3 keys to fundraising. Congresswoman Williams and NDTC founder Kelly Dietrich reveal how you should order your donor groups and why hearing no can actually be a good thing. And for more on fundraising, take one of our free expert-created courses linked in the description below. Thank you so much for training with us today.